What's going on, guys? Braxton here. I just wanted to give you guys a look at what I've been doing as far as processing my GGD and really my overall mix. I had posted one of my like a sample of one of my mixes in the GGD forum, and you guys really seemed to like it, and you guys sounded like you were all for a walkthrough video, so I'm gonna give you guys one here. Kind of the sound that I go for really is, I mean, I try to keep it as natural as possible. I think that's a good goal. I'm not a huge fan of these overly processed, overly compressed sounds, just like drums that just sound fake. So yes, I do go for punch and I do go for life as far as like a metal mix goes. But I don't want to get out of that whole like natural feel. So I'm gonna give you guys some tips and kind of just show you guys what I'm doing. At the same time, I have my own settings and I have my own little tips or my own little tweaks that I make. I'm not going to show you guys absolutely everything because I think it's very key to develop your own sound. I mean, that's of course why people will come to you to mix their song or work on their song for them, because they like your sound and not someone else's sound that you somehow copied. So I think that's important that you develop your own sound. Anyways, aside from that, I just want to give you guys a good idea of what I have been doing. I had mentioned for those of you that are here from the GGD forum, you guys saw that I do blend a little bit. It's mainly the P4 kit. Honestly, the stock kit, really, like the reptile snapshot, aside from this Pearl, I think, yeah, the Pearl Masters Birch kit, kick, sorry. This kick is absolutely massive, obviously in size, but also just in the character. It's just so thick and so easy to mix right out of the box, and so I love that kick a lot. I'm running the VK snare, obviously. You cannot go wrong with the VK snare. The other snares are cool for certain context, but the VK snare is just a good all-around snare. Everything else I have not changed. It sounds great right out of the box, guys. It really does. Now, from those of y'all that are here from the GGD forum, you know that I am blending this Gretsch Bell Brass high tune snare. Obviously not at full volume, and I've muted everything else as far as the snare goes. I'm not using the room overhead. I'm using the bottom mic barely and the top mic. I kind of cut down a few dB actually. Not using any turbo settings on any of this. I don't think. I can't remember. Yeah, no turbo settings. I'm not a huge fan of the turbo settings. It's a cool idea, and I see what they were doing, but for someone like me who likes to dive in and make everything sound how I want it to sound, I feel like the turbo setting is not for me. Anyways, that's what I'm running for my kit. I'll go ahead and get out of here. Let's minimize those. Get out of the kit there. And these blue tracks right here are all my drum tracks. I'm not doing any crazy routing or anything like that. If you go over here, I mean, I have a drum bus. Everything's going to the drum bus, and then I have a tom bus because I like to mix my rack toms and my floor toms a little differently. I feel like that needs to be done because they are, after all, different drums. I have kick, parallel, snare, obviously toms, spot mics, overhead, and the room. I love how they decided to do the room on the P4 kit. It's just one mic, or it's just one track. It just makes it so easy. It's a great out of the box sound. Modern Massive was cool, Invasion was cool, but I like to have a great sound right off the bat. So yeah, that's what I'm doing as far as my routing. Nothing too special. I guess I'll just go in order from left to right, and I'll show you guys what I'm doing as far as drums. So to start off, on my drum bus, I have a virtual tape. Cannot go wrong with a virtual tape. You guys can look at these settings here, the 1/2 inch 2-track, and I'm not doing anything special with it. before I play you guys like the solo drum track, I'll kind of give you guys this song has not been released and it's not even close to being done. I just happened to post the clip of that on the GGD forum, and we're gonna take a look at this first verse going into the first chorus and kind of the end of the first chorus there. So I'll play you guys this little snippet real quick. But yeah, that's what we're running as far as drums. Like I said, this is this is an unreleased song. It's tentatively titled Epiphany for my band Imminent Dismay. But yeah, anyways, let's get back to what we were doing here. Running the virtual tape on the entire drum bus, and then I think I have an instance of VMR. Slate Digital, cannot go wrong. This Hollywood, the virtual tube here, it's pretty sweet here. That light is barely coming on there. I'm not doing a whole lot on the drum bus. I mean, you can't really do a whole lot of compression on the drum bus because you kind of get a little too carried away. You get rid of that natural sound, which, like I said, I'm trying to go for that natural sound, but still get that punch. So that's the drum bus. That's literally it. Everything else is on the individual tracks. The kick, like I said, doesn't really need to. It has a great sound off the bat, but you still got to do a little bit of processing. Now, some of these moves, they look like they're crazy. They look like they're just absolutely ridiculously too much. But when I process, I use my ear. I try not to get carried away with how something looks as far as like an EQ like this one here, because it's so easy to get carried away with an EQ with like it looks as great as this does, and you can kind of get carried away. You got to use your ear on the EQs. I find it very important. So I'll disable everything and let you guys hear what it sounds like without the processing, and then I'll kind of go through each one. So let's see here. Do the drum bus. Cutting a lot of that 200 right there. I feel like that's important. That 200 right there is very important to cut. It just kind of gets rid of that mud. And I find that this was kind of a little too much, so I cut a little bit at 55, cut 28. We don't need anything, I mean, under 30, really. We just don't need it. And then this is just maybe some more narrow things that I heard that were kind of problematic. And this kick can get a little too clicky if you're not careful, so I cut a little more at about 5600. So like I said, guys, that's a great sound right off the bat. Smash and grab I have on absolutely every single drum channel. I am a huge fan of smash and grab, guys. It is the best, the easiest compressor, and I don't even use the pro mode. Just the regular mode. The original smash and grab 1.0 is perfect. So obviously I'm using the grab mode, kick mode. Obviously, it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm cutting a little bit of air just because it's a little clicky, and I have barely even a half a dB on the beef. It just doesn't need that much, and I'm doing quite a bit of gain reduction actually. Like I said, I was just using my ear. Try not to look at the meter too much. I'm just using my ear, guys. That's all we're doing here. Now with the virtual tape, again, not doing a whole lot. Just add that beef, add that warmth to it. It's a beautiful kick sound. It's awesome. Now I'll move on to the snare here. I'm gonna mute this parallel bus because we're just gonna take a look at how the snare sounds by itself. Pretty punchy, pretty choked off actually. I'm gonna disable all these here. Now with the blend, it can kind of get a little harsh. The VK snare does have a lot of high end to it, and I feel like the blend kind of tames that a little bit, but I feel like it needs just a little more transient control. So I have this the virtual mix rack here, just doing the FU73. Quite a bit there. Like I said, just using my ear, not trying to do see what the light was doing, but just using my ear to see what sounded good. Get rid of that here. Now this is interesting. This is not what your typical snare EQ would look like. Like I said, this a lot of high end cut. The VK snare can get harsh on the ear if you're not careful. It's bypassed. And that's my EQ. Kind of a few weird moves here and there, but like I said, I really don't have any explanation other than the fact that that move sounded good at the time. Moving on to smash and grab again, obviously. Little airlift. Saturation, a lot of saturation, guys. There's, like I said, you got to tame that transient or it's gonna poke through and just be really tough to listen to on the track. Cutting a little beef. Going back to the EQ, the VK snare does have a little bit too much of that 200, so I cut some on the EQ, just a little bit, and then I cut a little more on the beef control, just a little bit. I'm not sure why I decided to turn up the output. Just like I said, seemed like a good choice at the time. A lot of gain reduction on this one, guys. That's what's going to give you that punch. And then the parallel bus will kind of bring back in that natural sound. That close mic is just very important to get it nice and punchy. Now I have drum leveler. This is a rather new thing I've been doing. It's cool. I'm still trying to get trying to get the hang of it. But I like what it does. It obviously levels it out because it's a multi-sampled plugin. So I mean, each hit is going to be a different, like it's going to trigger a different sample. So it doesn't have that machine gun effect. You know, it's a very very well sampled library. But this gets all the hits very in, and I feel like it tames the transient a little more as well. Very cool sound there. Last but not least at all, I have Soothe. This is Soothe 2. I absolutely love it. It is worth every little penny. This will get your mix sounding pro, like a pro sounding mix, right? Now on this, I lowered the sharpness a little bit. I did use the harsh snare clap preset here. I just feel like it's a good starting point. There's not a whole lot of detail that needs to be done. It needs to get rid of that harshness. And that's about it as far as the snare close mic goes. I'll go ahead, since this parallel bus is mostly with the snare, I'll go ahead and unmute it and show you guys what we're doing here. Smash and grab on the parallel mode, smash mode. A little bit on the turn up the output again. For what reason? I don't know. I just felt like doing it at the time and it sounds good. EQ, just doing a little bit of those resonant frequencies that ring out for a little too long. Other than that, I didn't feel like anything else needed to be done. Sounds kind of funky on its own, but in the mix, it gives the kit life. Yeah, we'll move on to the toms here. The tom bus. Not a lot of compression on the bus. I do have a little bit of verb. I don't even know where the... There's not a whole lot of tom work in this song, but this is what I'll do normally. A little bit of verb to give it some give some space, and then a few mid cuts, and then a high cut right here. That's on the bus. I'll do a little more EQ for the individual toms. The rack toms, I'll cut a lot of mid cuts, no high cuts though. A lot of mid cuts and cut the rest of that low. Grab mode, tom mode. I don't think here. Yeah, I'm not in here. Let me see. Let's go to a tom section here. Gain reduction there. Maybe like 1-2 dB of gain reduction. Toms sound great right off the bat. I don't think you don't need to do a whole lot. As for the rack toms, floor toms, I work with whatever the fundamental frequency is. So I cut a little lower. I kind of treat it like a kick drum, to be honest, because these toms are absolutely huge on the P4 kit, guys. They sound sick. Kind of same idea as far as the compression. See, floor toms, there it is. Now, I do have a gate on the floor toms. They do ring out for a little too long, and they can really destroy a mix if you have that like low, just deep fundamental frequency ringing out for too long. It can really ring out for way too long. So I have a gate. Let's see. Kind of cuts off there. Kind of treat it like a little like a snare, like a choked off snare. Just kind of tames that a little bit. A little more gain reduction on the floor tom, just because I felt like those need to be punchy. And then we'll move on to the spot mics. I like to mix the spot mics a little bit lower, just because I like the overheads to do the work. Cutting a pretty good little low cut there, and then cutting these harsh frequencies over here about 5-6K. We just don't need any of that. Compressing quite a bit. But yeah, not a whole lot on the spot mics. Like I said, they're mixed pretty low, so I don't need to do a whole lot. Overheads is where you got to be a little more careful. They can get out of hand pretty quickly. Cutting at about 381 right here, a little mid cut, just kind of, it's like kind of a boxy. That's where the snare kind of, that's where all that problematic frequencies from the snare can pop through. So I cut some of that. You just don't need any of that right there. Cut at about 3,000. I think that was meant to be 4,000, but, or 4K, but it sounds good. Like I said, this is about a 6K cut, and I like to boost a little bit of the 10K and up. It sounds a lot better. It gives it some life and some brightness. Especially that China can get really bright. I love it. Now onto the rooms. I have a lot of room on this particular. Punch it kind of cuts through quite a bit here. EQ, it's kind of treating it the same as overheads. We just want this kind of, 400 and up kind of sound to it. Now the cymbals can get pretty harsh on the room, and I don't really like that, just because it is running through the parallel bus, and like with all those high frequencies piling up, and just kind of it can really overpower your mix there, and you don't want that. Now, the compression, I'm doing quite a bit of gain reduction here. I'm not doing anything to the air or beef. A lot of saturation just because I don't need any transients coming through in the room. It's more of I need to smash those transients. Obviously, that's why I'm on the smash mode. Room, obviously, self-explanatory. Gives a lot of life here. And then going to the parallel bus with overall, guys, it's a pretty natural drum sound. I'm really proud of this drum mix. That's what I'm doing for drums, guys. I'll go ahead and go through some of the guitar stuff and some of the other stuff. I'm not doing a whole lot as far as anything else. It's just it comes down to a good source tone. For guitars, I am running through an XFX 2. Let's see what I'm using for my XFX tone here. Pull up my patch here. I know I'm running a Friedman model, that's for sure. If it decides to work. I don't think it's gonna work. I think I did a sample rate change and it's not gonna work. Anyway. But yes, for guitars, I am running a Friedman. The Friedman, I think it's the HBE V1. It's a great amp. I don't see any amp that even comes close to what the Friedman sounds like. I'm running I think it's a combination of the Zilla K100 and the German Boutique. It's kind of an angle model, I believe. For the cab, and then I'm doing just a little bit of drive and a couple of an EQ moves in the XFX before I bring it out to the DAW. And here's the isolated guitar. Super cool tone. I'm really proud of that one. That's for the rhythm track. I do a layer track for like parts like this. Just for like a drone effect. Processing for the guitars. I do have a those palm mutes. Gotta tame those palm mutes. EQ, not doing a whole lot, just cutting a few mids. I love the low end on this tone. I think the cab IRs do have a lot to do with how great this tone does sound in the low end. A little bit of 4K and just a couple of mids and a high cut, guys. That's really using one of the presets that I just happen to like. I don't really try to pay attention to what they're like, what the original, like just like when the stock, when you pull up the Pro C2, I just kind of go through the presets and just kind of see what I like. This is not reducing the attack of a DI. This is an amp sound, so I try not to pay attention to like what the name is, and just kind of I'm more focused on what it's doing to my tone as far as my ears go. Super cool effect there, and this is just something I found a couple of days ago. Actually, I was listening to the isolated guitar track, in my car, and different speakers will bring out different frequencies, and I just found a problematic frequency right here at about 1700. Yeah, that can really be harsh on the ear if it's at loud volumes, especially. So on a rhythm track like this, it's good to find problematic frequencies. Like on the rhythm track, that's all I'm doing. I'll go to a lead, this lead track right here. Kind of a good post rock kind of lead. Have the delay running in front of the amp just to kind of give it a little more space, and I have a reverb after the amp, just to give it that nice lead kind of drone effect. Pretty simple. Kind of give the track a little more weight to it as far as like ambience goes. It's a good effect because without it, it sounds like it just needs a little. This clean right here. Let's see what clean track here. Just a cool clean tone with a lot of ambience. Using this delay or pod farm, funny enough. And then a little bit of reverb. Self-explanatory. Now that other thing you just heard, probably, is down here. I actually saw this on one of Misha's streams. He's using a plugin called Posthuman from Finishing Move, and it's a pretty awesome plugin. I can't really picture my mixes without it anymore. It's just an awesome synth. Just a super cool plugin by Finishing Move. That's really awesome. On the mastering, it's pretty typical to what you guys have been seeing from Nolly. Just top down mixing, quite a bit of processing. This last EQ, I'm not doing anything. I'm just monitoring just to make sure there's a good. And obviously that's pretty well balanced there, but doing this whole thing, this is not a trick that I learned from Nolly. However, it's a kind of a mid side. I am cutting some of the side low frequency and just letting it shine through in the middle. I think it has a really cool effect using that mid side feature on the Pro Q2 here. Adding a little brightness. This is not doing anything right here, I don't think, but this just adds a little like I said, adds a little brightness to it. VMR again, this virtual channel and the trimmer cutting a little bit. This cuts 3 dB obviously to let the FG gray work a little better. Kind of going for about 3 to 4 dB in that compressor there. You don't want your snare to cut through and just be a little harsh. It kind of just lets it sit in the mix a little better. FG red. Doing the mix at about 47%. This is barely doing anything. Kind of just helping glue it together a little more. This is a cool trick that I kind of just came up with myself. It's a multi-band compressor doing everything below right here, below about 200 here. And it's really just helping tame that kick. The kick can punch through and be really harsh sometimes and just overpower your mix, and this just helped tame it a little. just really helps that sit in the mix. It's kind of doing the same thing that the FG Gray is doing to the snare. So yeah, that's just taming that kick. Easy mix. This isn't doing a whole lot, maybe a tiny bit of limiting, and then just adding some width to the mix. It's a pretty cool effect. Pretty cool right there. Soothe, self-explanatory. Like I said, it's just helping everything just be a little more pleasant on the like 1.5 dB maybe, and not very sharp. It'll just sound weird if you get too sharp on the it'll get to be too much cut. I mean, yeah, you can turn the depth down, but I just like it here about 3.5 on the sharpness. And then the limiter, get everything sounding nice and pro. I try to aim for about -9 dB over here. Let me be specific. On the loudest point of the song or the mix, you don't want to be aiming like for like a verse. If it's a softer verse, you don't want to be aiming for this -9 right here. The loudest part of your song needs to be right here at about the -9. That's about where you're gonna get that pro. Other guys may have different techniques on limiting or getting your mix louder, but that's just what I'm doing. You guys had wanted me to do this video, and I'm just kind of showing you guys what I do. Some guys may watch this video and be like, what the hell is he doing? That is completely incorrect. And like I said, guys, I'm not a pro by any means. My setup is in my bedroom. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. I'm by no means a professional. I'm just giving you guys what I do on these mixes here. I've been doing this for a few years now, and I've kind of developed my own tweaks and my own moves that I do, and whether it's incorrect or not, I think it sounds pretty good. So yeah, guys, that's what I've been doing on this mix. Keep an eye out for this song. My band Imminent Dismay is going to be putting out a full-length album here pretty soon, possibly later this year. Keep an eye out for that, and thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a good one.